You are listening to River House Church's Sermon of the Week. We hope this talk equips and inspires you.
Honestly, it is such an honor and a joy not only to be here speaking tonight, but to participate every week in the beauty of standing before you guys and as a community going after the heart of Jesus. And like we were praying even that prayer time, just not being willing to settle. And it just fills my heart. There's nothing I love more than being here with you guys, being out there with you guys, whatever it is. And I just want to start tonight by just honoring where honor's due, and not only just due, but I want to lavish it on. Jordan has been such an incredible leader and pastor of this movement in this church. And I always tell people he's 10 times the man off the stage than he is on the stage. And I truly mean that. I've never had a leader over me who's given me so much freedom and allowed me so much space to mess up and screw everything up, with him being on the other side with love and with whatever it is, correction or encouragement or whatever it is. So love him very much. And same thing just to the staff at River House, all you guys. I absolutely adore you. And thank God every single day for the kind of culture that you guys create. And you lead me into along with you guys. So now that that's out of the way, I just want to start off by praying. Before I even start, I just want like permission from you guys. Is it cool if I'm just myself tonight? If I don't try to be Jordan or Stephen Furtick or whoever else that I look like? Is that cool? Yeah, sweet. All right, so let's keep looking at him. Let's look to Jesus, and we just tell you that you have our attention tonight. And I just believe that that's so much more than a good message or something to encourage or inspire. You long to start movement in your church to lead us into the more that you're offering us. And so like we prayed earlier, God, we refuse to settle for anything less than the fullness of what you've created us to be, what you've created us to do, and what you've created this church body to be. So we look for you. We're on the boat and we're searching for where you're moving, what you're speaking tonight. And we just say, we're going to say yes. We step out right now and allow you. Come and use your voice. Encourage us, lift us up, convict us, whatever you want to do. Yeah, you have our hearts. You have our attention. Man, so I just want to start by giving you guys kind of insight into my history and my relationship with worship, this thing that we partake in, not only on Sundays, but just constantly as part of our lives. So I grew up also she walked in and I wanted to honor her. This is my wife, Amy. She was the powerful one standing right here, singing Worthy of It All. She's amazing. Love her to death. Cool. So yeah, I grew up in Seattle, and if anybody knows Kirkland, it's where you Costco people get all your stuff. You're welcome. That's I grew up in a Baptist church, a big old church over there, and I'll spare kind of like all the details, but I kind of want to talk about what I learned as I grew up, what kind of culture of worship that I engaged with, and what kind of culture, what it taught me, what was to be valued, and what worship was just in general. And I feel like I want to invite you guys into that story and into that process, because it's been part of the process of what he's doing and building here, even for us today. So a lot of amazing stuff, a lot of great things happening. But really, I just want to focus on two takeaways that I had growing up in that church of what worship was. And these are things that I kind of had to overcome over my life. So first one is performance. And the second one being like giving far too much value to feelings. Does that make sense? Performance and feelings. Now, performance kind of from the aspect of, I was on a stage. Ever since I was in 6th grade, my dad told me that playing guitar would get you girls. And I very seriously took him at that, and so I started learning guitar, and it worked. That's how I got my wife. There's going to be like 50 new auditions for acoustic guitar on worship team next week. So from like the performance aspect, I would learn to play, and it was kind of this space that said, you're valued because of what you do. You're valued if you don't make a mistake. If basically like the whole world was about like, don't create a distraction, create a space that's distraction free. And so performance from the stage, but then also very much like performance from being in a congregation and being with people. I think there was this level of like comparison and competition that said like, am I supposed to look like that person next to me? Am I supposed to worship like this person next to me? Am I supposed to do whatever, honestly, like the person next to me? So it's like, okay, so I'll stand with arms high. It's like, okay, should I put my arms up if I'm not? If I don't, am I like not a Christian? Or is like, how does this work? So just kind of this level of performance mindset, just like bleeding into every aspect. And then on the other side, being feelings. And really what that was this like incessant drive that everything came from how I felt about something. So it was like, oh yeah, that was great worship, which I don't know what that means. Like that was great worship because during that song I really liked at the bridge, when the drums started going crazy, like I started crying, and I feel like that means I felt God. And then on the other side, if I would come into like a time of worship and I was having a crappy day or something went wrong, it was like I would just kind of just stand there and just not really engage, because it was like determined based upon my feelings whether I was willing to engage with worshiping God. So do those make sense, guys? Performance, feelings, kind of either of those guys? All right, cool. Start yelling at me if something doesn't make sense. So this was kind of like the culture that I was in, and you guys have to understand, and I think try to make sense of this. Like, those were the things that I valued. So at the time, I didn't know that was like a really incomplete and very like a stray version of what worship was. So in my head, it was like, yeah, this is right. So worship was so just kind of up and down. But I remember looking back that there was something that I longed for, like for more. There was some level, even though I had no language for it, I didn't necessarily like, I'm sure if I went back now I could see, but like from my own eyes, I was blind to like seeing other people going after it. I didn't know what that looked like. And there was just like this discontentment with where I was at. And over actually even like recent years, I've begun this process of starting to pray and to ask God to take me back to memories and show me things from when I was a kid, when I was in junior high, when I was in high school, where I like had no language for and didn't understand that he was moving and like working on my behalf, but he actually was. And I just like, little side note, like encourage you, like do that, like sit in a room, sit by yourself and start to pray and ask him to take you back to memories where like he was moving and working, but you just didn't know it. It's been blowing my mind. Seriously, some of the stories I'll share tonight, I didn't remember, I'd never thought about. He just reminded me of them. So like stories of encountering the Holy Spirit and seeing there was more. Like, for example, I was at a summer camp, and there's this kid who I had never even heard of the term speaking in tongues. Like, I literally hadn't ever even heard it, the term like uttered. And so people started like talking about this kid who speaks in tongues, and I was like, I think to somebody who doesn't know what that means, speaking in tongues, like, is he talking with like a bunch of like a bucket of tongues around his face? Like no joke. He was like, I had no idea. And so I sought this kid out though, because everybody just kept talking about it, and I sat him down and I was like, hey, speak in tongues for me. And okay, whether theologically or not, the idea of sitting somebody down and like for my own wonder and amazement having them speak in tongues is right or wrong is beside the point. What happened is he did, and once again, whether it's right or wrong, who cares right now? The beautiful thing is I felt something in my heart shift. I felt movement. I felt like where there was staleness and where there was like tied up, like something started to kind of shake and something started to move. And I felt this level of hunger and something that I knew that there was more that I wasn't accessing, stuff that I was unaware of, that I had never even known existed, that was out there. And honestly, a big part of that was breaking down this such prideful concept and mindset that says like, oh no, the way that I know God to be is the right way. The way that I know the church to be, the way I think worship should happen is like it happens at River House. Like there's so much pride filled in that. It's like we ignore the beauty and the aspect of God working in unique, just sides of his face in every other context. That one's free. And so I felt this level of like, man, there's something more that I long for. And so I started to do this thing where I started to test the waters. I would kind of take the toe, and I would kind of start to test out, be like, okay, what would it look like if I tried to kind of step beyond what I'm comfortable with, right? And part of what that looked like was I was on this worship team for a long time, big church. The youth group itself was 350 kids or something. So we're leading in the main services, and I would feel this desire, though. I was playing guitar, but I would feel this desire, I want to roar. I want to roar. There's something inside of me, and I didn't even know it was my voice, but it was see, I really don't know how to describe it. And so I would do this thing where I was but then I started to feel this desire, paired with that of singing and literally using my voice to speak out into the atmosphere. And I would start to do a thing where I would kind of sing kind of behind the worship pastor, hoping he hears me. Sing a little bit louder on this side. Maybe these people hear me and say I'm good. Just testing out the water. But what really happened was people started. I love them to death, but in a lot of ways I started to get shut down. People started kind of speaking like the cap on me, and they would be like, hey man, that's really distracting when you do that, so if you could not do that, that'd be great. And I'm not joking, seriously, pretty intense, right? And then even beyond that, I had two people. It's funny how even two voices we can allow to breathe into this lifetime working through of crap. But those voices were hey, you actually have a really bad voice. And so it's not really good when you sing during worship times. And thank you for laughing so adamantly at that. I appreciate it. Oh, Lord. And oh, that's good. That's good. Come on, man. And I would start to kind of test it out, and I would kind of get shut down, right? And so what that actually happened is I allowed that to speak into 12, 11, 13-year-old Jordan's heart and kind of shut me down and shut me up. And I entered in the space where I knew I wanted something more, but I had, I was willing to be I'm serving in my capacity how I'm supposed to, or this is where I'm comfortable, or this is where it's safe, so I'm just going to only stay here and not be willing to step out. And I shared this earlier, but I feel like God kind of gave me just kind of pause in here, just a word for whether it's somebody or some people in here tonight. But kind of with this story with me, I feel like there's an invitation to some of you who have taken a step into something. And I don't know what this looks like. This is very ethereal in my head, but it's like you've taken a step into something that God has called you to. And he honors you. I felt that very clearly. It's he's honoring your decision to step into it. But there's this level of discomfort and level of but I know there's more. There's something more to step into. There's something more to launch myself into. But voices have kept you silent. Voices have kept you down, and the dreams have kind of been put off to the side. And I've settled with just staying here. And I just want to encourage you. I feel like the voice of God is saying tonight that it's time to step up, time to start stepping out again. Step out in a safe place and find in this place, this is a safe place to start to express yourself and find your voice. And where he's calling you into more, it's time to step out of those boxes and break them out. So bless you with that, whoever that's for. Finished high school, still not singing, still not using my voice, except for just being an idiot and whatever a high schooler Jordan does. Right out of high school, I ended up going to YWAM, Youth with a Mission. Love them to death. Changed my life. I spent 3 months in a kind of a discipleship school. Just think day in, day out for 3 months of just classes of people preaching at you, and it was beautiful. And my heart and my mind got radically deconstructed with who I viewed myself to be. And who I viewed God to be. Beautiful time in my life. I'll kind of skip past some of that. So the last 3 months we do an outreach, and mine was in Thailand. And part of what we were doing was just going around and ministering with music, because it was like a music and worship discipleship training school. And part of what we did was we went to Pattaya, Thailand, which a bunch of the locals kind of in churches there and stuff called it like it's like the sex slavery capital of the world, specifically Pattaya. Specifically there was one street, and there's something called the Walking Street, and it's this mile-long road. It's a very, very long road, and lined up on the left and on the right, all the way down, is just lined up with, they called them like sex bars. So it's bars, but they were literally like women lined up in the front to be abused and to be taken advantage of. And a really, really horrible, horrible, dark place. It's the first place I ever went into where I felt like I had a hard time breathing just because of like the presence of just like evil there. And I hate it. The evil there, not the place, believing for miracles, mighty miracles to go there. And part of how he's doing that, I think, is sending people to minister there like he did with us. And we had a big group. We broke off into smaller groups, me and 2 girls, and we went and just kind of like sat in between these 2 bars in a little alleyway, which is kind of like where we're still like right there on the street. And I pulled out my guitar, and I just started playing, and they started singing. They started using their voice and worshiping, and I heard the Lord speak to me about 10, 15 minutes in, and man, the most convicting, the most kind, the most loving, and the most forceful voice I've ever heard to my spirit came in. I heard the voice of God, and he said, "Am I not worthy for you to worship also?" And something inside of me just broke, and I knew that what could have been, it was 2 people in a few situations that shut me up. It could have been 1,000 people in a million situations coming in my way, but one voice from Jesus, one word spoken from him, and I knew everything would have just cut straight through and fallen away. And I knew that something shifted inside of my heart right there, and I started to open up my voice, and I started to sing in the middle of these 2 sex bars in this horrible place where nobody's smiling. It's just thick and gross. And the craziest thing happened. The supernatural just started to break out all over the place. So over the next hour, a crowd of 200, 300 people gathered around. And like this is from people from all over the world coming here to partake in evil. And what happened was they saw light, and they were drawn to the light. And they came in and they started like asking us, like what are you saying? What are you singing? And I remember these 2 girls even came over, and they came over to our music and were trying to read it with us and like sing alongside of us. And healing started happening, and crazy stuff, guys, like stuff I still am like, did that really happen? That's crazy. A bus full of tourists from China actually got dropped off close to where we were at, and they were walking in front, and they were just all drawn to us. And they came around and they started taking pictures. And guys, I don't care if you don't believe me or not. It's what happened. I saw it with my own eyes. They started showing us these pictures, and there were angels literally in the pictures that they were showing us, surrounding that group of people. I don't pretend to understand that. I don't pretend to give like language to like, here's how that works. Here's where it says in the Bible. But all I know is that something happened when I opened up my voice. I opened up what had been shut away for a long time, and I started to step beyond what I was comfortable with into the risk. And I said, no, I'm longing for the more of God. And so I'm not willing to settle anymore. I'm stepping in again, and I'm stepping in again. And the supernatural started to break out, healings. And guys, I remember the first thing I would tell people for years after that happened was I saw people smile. Like I didn't realize I hadn't even seen anybody smile the entire time I was there. And I think it was like something so simple and so small like that stood out to me, that it was like the very core of like foundation of who we are. We were created to be joyful. Like just the little hint of that showed me just like the beautiful light breaking into this dark place. So I had this moment then, and then I came back to the States, and it was really interesting, man. That whole transition time went straight into college, just kind of like My first semester was at BSU, and I really didn't have much of a community or people to share this with. Imagine going from like those kind of encounters 24/7 into just like normal college party lifestyle that I didn't really engage with, but instead, almost worse, I just completely isolated and just completely sat there and like, honestly, vulnerably, would just sit in my room and cry for like a semester. Who laughed at that? I'm just kidding. Yeah, seriously though, like really, really tough times. And I ended up going over to NNU, Northwest Nazarene University in Nampa, and I studied theology there for 3.5 years. And I'll shorten it all up, but one day I was walking down the street, saw this dude walking the other way, and the Lord told me to go talk to him, and ended up that's how I met Jordan Werner. We became good friends, and a 1.5 years after that, he told me about his dream for this church and this movement that he believed God was putting on his heart. Invited me and then my fiance at the time, Amy, now wife, to come out right after we got married and just kind of start it up and see what that looked like. So I came on to this church, and I didn't start off with worship. It wasn't actually what I was here to do. I'll skip it once again just for the sake of time, but like beautiful story of God kind of breathing that passion into me, and now it's something that I love more than anything. And but part of that story then of this worship culture, right? So here's the thing though, guys, is I've had this years and years of, what was it, right? It was like performance and feelings. I had years and years of this being my value for worship, but then I had like this encounter with it. And now it's like, okay, so like what do I do with these like very like opposing ideas? And this began this process that now I just want to like invite you guys into the story of what it looks like for building the culture of worship here at River House. And for me, the first year of being here was really tough. It was like amazing and so full of life. Like this isn't like a overall everything was bad, but specifically to worship, because God was in the process of killing off performance and killing off this like hyper focus on feelings being a source of value for worship. And it began this journey of like very, very uncomfortable. Like I would play songs, get done with worship sets, and be like, what is this doing? Like, is this really accomplishing anything? Like, is God really being honored? Like, what does it mean actually for God to be honored in worship? And I couldn't really answer that question. I didn't really know. It was kind of like I enter in, and then if we're honest, I bet you a majority of us are still at this place where we come in, it's kind of like, okay, well, if I'm raising my hands and I feel like something good or people are crying, it's like, yeah, that was a good worship set. And we have these kind of like markers that we define it by. And he was just like tearing those out of my heart. And just like, and I don't think he'll do this necessarily with everybody, but it's part of the process he took me on, like this deep, deep like discontentment, deep like, I don't like this almost, like almost like a, what's the word? I don't know, whatever. It's almost like almost like I don't like this or want to do this. And it was part of the process he was walking me through. And, I mean, you guys saw that process happening. Were any of you guys there? There was 2 worship sets that we did specifically that I want to point to that remind me of this. Does any of you guys remember there was a worship set where we had no instruments and it was just vocals, just like that little a cappella set? There was 3 of us. The Lord said, hey, the person, I want you and then 2 people that aren't very comfortable singing. I want them to be on your team for this week. And I want you to just sing, no instruments. Awkward, right? Weird, right? Yeah, very much for me too. And that one, and then we did the same thing, just kind of opposite. We did another worship set where it was no vocals. We were just playing instruments and just creating, just making music. And what that was, though, was part of this process of deconstructing what I thought like worship was supposed to look like, what I thought worship was supposed to feel like, what I thought it was supposed to sound like. And it was part of this journey he was taking me on into like deconstructing those things, like allowing this start to mesh over with the performance and the feelings and overshadow and take down and kill off, and then whatever gold was in them to bring that into it. So that was that, especially that first year of deconstructing. And guys, I would come into Jordan's office probably once, twice, maybe even more times a month, just be crying. And I would just be like, why am I doing this? Like, this doesn't mean anything to me. And I mean, that sounds very intense and very harsh, but I think that's what was needed in my heart to break down what he wanted to break down so that he could build up what needed to be built up. And so what I want to invite you guys now into, this is our conversation, is now that this stuff, I feel like to such a deep level, and this is really cool. Part of what's been helping with this, the Lord spoke to me about a little over a year ago. Chad, how long? The prayer in the back thing that we do? It's like a year or more? Yeah. And the Lord spoke to me and just said he wanted to start incorporating liturgy into our worship team and how we, and just beauty of that tradition in the church. And what he had for us, though, was every week for the last year or more, we go back there after our worship sets and we say, we pray the same thing, the same prayer. And it's, Lord, my definition, my idea and value of success, and whether that was a good worship set or something messed up, has nothing to do with how I felt about how I did, nothing to do with how I saw people reacting, what I saw happening in the room, but it's all found in the affection and the eyes of the Father that say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And what's been happening, guys, is as that, along with all this other working through it and dealing with this stuff, this performance and these feelings, less so of lowered and more of stomped into the ground and eradicated. And I absolutely love that. And so now that those things are gone, it's kind of what do we replace it with? What is the culture of worship that he wants to create? What is, and it was this world of exciting opportunities. Where are we going? Who do you want? In general, what is worship? How are you helping us define this? And then what's River House's voice? What is our church voice that's different than another church? Once again, not better or worse, just different perspective of a side of God's face. And it's okay, what does this look like for us? And I just want to propose to you guys and invite you then into the conversation that it's this is the season. It has been for the last couple of years, and I think it always will be. But to a certain extent, where we're at now, there's a crucial time where God is using us to form and build the culture of worship that we're going to be, that we're willing to be, that we're willing to step out in. And so we're really in this process right now all together. And so I want to propose this, and this is what I felt so clearly, even from the beginning, before I was working through this stuff, before I knew how to word it or give it feet. I just knew that our worship team, our worship culture, our entire congregation and our body, our goal, our purpose, our primary thing that we do is simply to minister to the heart of God. And I'll launch into this and what this means, but just right off the bat, ministering to the heart of God looks so much less like coming into a worship set saying, I want to encounter God's love. I want to encounter God's freedom or his peace or his joy, or I need this today, I need this today, I need this today. And that is fine to do. It is fine to recognize what my heart needs today and what I'm longing for. All right? So that is not I'm giving you permission to come into a time and say, here's what my needs are. But if I come and I allow myself to be directed and my worship to be influenced by what my needs are or my feelings are or what my circumstances are, it's missing out on maybe the invitation into what God's doing in a room. And so what happens is when I start to respond out of saying, you're worthy. You guys ever realize that we sing Worthy of It All 40 times a month? The reason for that is because that's a song that just takes us completely out of our own perspective, starts to shift our perspective towards his ideas, his thoughts. And it's actually the song written in Revelation 4. This is not planned. Let's go for it, though. In Revelation 4, whenever the living creatures gave glory, honor, and thanks to the one who is enthroned and who lives forever, 24 elders fell face down before the one seated on the throne, worship the one who lives forever and ever. And it says earlier they would cast their crowns down. Oh, right here it does, just kidding. It says, and they surrendered their crowns before the throne, and they sang, you are worthy, Lord and God, worthy to receive glory, honor, and power. For by you all things were created, and by your plan they were created and they exist. And I just look at that, and I look at the songs that we sing, and I say, God, I would so much rather sing the songs and partner now with what I'm going to be singing for eternity, rather than enter into a place and let it be determined by like how I'm feeling that day. And I think what happens is when I come in and I start to sing the songs of ministering to his heart, telling him who he is, high praise, high praise, high praise, just telling him he's good, is he comes, and he says, oh, like these are people that love me. I love them so much. I want to pour out my peace. I want to pour out my joy. I want to pour out everything that they need, everything that they want, and everything that they long for. So instead of being this thing where it's like, okay, I'm coming here to get what I deserve, it says, I'm coming here with eyes of adoration, eyes of affection, eyes of love that tell you who you are. And he's so good that never one time has he failed to come and give exactly what we needed in return. If you guys have Bibles, would you open them up to Luke? We're going to be in Luke 7 and in Luke 10. And I feel like these are two stories that really, really beautifully God is using to lead us into an understanding of our primary goal, to minister to the heart of God. And let's go Luke 7, verse 36. Here's what it says. It says, in the neighborhood there was an immoral woman of the streets, known to all to be a prostitute. When she heard about Jesus being in Simon's house, she took an exquisite flask made from alabaster. She filled it with the most expensive perfume, went right into the home of the Jewish religious leader, and knelt at the feet of Jesus in front of all the guests. Broken and weeping, she covered his feet with the tears that fell from her face. She kept crying and then drying his feet with her long hair. Over and over, she kissed Jesus' feet. And then she opened up her flask and she anointed his feet with her costly perfume as an extravagant act of worship. All right, in Luke 10, verse 38. Luke 10, verse 38 says, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their journey, they came to a village where a woman welcomed Jesus into her home. Her name was Martha, and she had a sister named Mary. Mary sat down attentively before the master, absorbing every revelation he shared. But Martha became exasperated by finishing the numerous household chores in preparation for her guests. So she interrupted Jesus, and she said, Lord, don't you think it's unfair that my sister left me to do all the work by myself? You should tell her to get up and help me. And the Lord answered, Martha, my beloved Martha. Can we just notice like the kindness and the love in the correction and the conviction that Jesus gives us? Man, Martha, my beloved Martha, why are you upset and troubled, pulled away by all these distractions? Are they really that important? Because Mary has discovered the one thing most important by choosing to sit at my feet. She's undistracted, and I won't take this privilege from her. I think there's such a beautiful invitation in both of these stories to two sides. And there's a million aspects of how we can engage with worship that ministers to the heart of God. But I feel like there's two that he's highlighting for us as a body tonight. You guys cool with that? So the first one of Mary being in this house, Martha running around doing stuff. And Mary has chosen just to sit at his feet. She just chose to sit at his feet and just be with him. There was no expectation. I like to think that there was no need even to fill the room with talking. For moments, they would just sit in silence, just be. And I just see and hear him speaking just how like beautifully it ministered to Jesus' heart that she was willing just to be. She didn't need to be somebody else. She didn't need to be doing anything. She just needed to be herself and just sit. And I think this is the invitation for us on this side. Says, we have permission as a church body when we come into worship and we enter into this place of and this is across the board, guys, in your lives, as worship being in everything we do. But I'm specifically, for the sake of tonight, talking as like in our times of corporate worship. When we enter into corporate worship, we have permission just to be. To not have to come into something and feel like this pressure and condemnation and shame to make sure like we get something done by the time it's over. There's no shame. There's no condemnation if I'm not jumping up and down and screaming during a song. There's no shame if I'm sitting down, arms folded. Like there's so much freedom. You guys feel it? It's just like, I can just be. It's like this weight, this load just lifts off. And so we have permission to be. And then on the other side, not like opposite, but just another face, is when Mary comes in with an alabaster flask, and she takes what is most valuable to her, the thing that is like most important to her, the most valuable thing that she had to offer, and she takes this extravagant act, and she steps beyond what she's comfortable with, what she knew, what would be easy. I bet it was so uncomfortable walking into that house. I bet you she wasn't even supposed to be there. I bet you she knew that the disciples, it says in every other gospel, that it says like the disciples were indignant, and they said like, why didn't you give this to the poor people and sell it, or sell it and give the money to the poor people? And I bet you she knew that they would think that people would think it looked like such a waste. But there was something so beautiful that happened when she looked at all the factors, all the stuff that could happen, and she said, no, I want Jesus more than all this stuff trying to get in the way. I just long, and so I make this extravagant act, whatever it looks like. And so we have this permission, guys, in our culture of worship to just be, and we have this permission to make extravagant acts. And so I just want to like encourage you and just say, you are free. You are free. If you have felt, for some of us, it just looks so different across the board. For some of us, complete this crazy step into it, we'll be opening your voice for the first time and allowing like your voice and your heart to be expressed through words, whether that's talking or singing or whistling or humming or whatever it is. And so I just want to encourage you, like, take that step of extravagant devotion, because such a safe place is being cultivated by just being. And so if you need that safety, start to just be. And once you've been being, it starts to give you this hunger for the more, hunger for the risk, hunger for stepping into what's available as the more of God. And for some of us, it's like it's raising your hands for the first time. All this stuff can like feel silly to talk about, but how freeing is it just to like, you have permission. Like there's nothing like awkward or weird about these times. Well, I guess except for literally like everything about how we're just standing next to each other singing songs. Like, just messing. But it's like you have permission to be weird. You have from your perspective, from what you think is weird. Because like for somebody being weird, like I said, is singing. Where it's like, for me, weird is people like floating upside down and going to the ceiling, like during worship. So you guys have permission to float upside down towards the ceiling. Go for it. Begin. Jeez. So just know, guys, like I would encourage you, in this safe place of being, let it increase the hunger, increase the desire for what it would look like to risk, to say, I know, like I said when I was younger, I know there's more, and I'm not sure exactly what it looks like yet. And the beautiful thing is what I see here in this church and I see in times of worship is like we have models next to us, like people like who actually are showing what it looks like to step out into more. And it doesn't always look exactly like somebody else. It doesn't have to. I'm not saying that. But there's people in here like going after the heart of God. And that's what like community's for, is to say like, I'm encouraged and I'm built up, like to do this alongside these people with me. So you have family. We're in this together. Cool. So right, we've got adoration, we've got just being, and we've got this perspective of, okay, I'm gonna step beyond what I'm comfortable with. Do you guys remember like 4 weeks ago? I think it was 5 weeks ago. I don't know what it was. We were singing that song "Surrounded," and then it was kind of like gotten like a 4 on the floor kind of feel at the end of it. It was like, we're moving, yeah. And we started kind of like getting a little dance party going on. And I just remember Suze, I'm glad you were filming just that part of me. I just see her with her phone, like filming. Hey guys. But I just remember there's something really beautiful in that space where it wasn't like, hey, you're only encountering God if you start to dance with us. But it was, I remember specifically the word of the Father was like, there was like this kind invitation. It's like, hey, for people that might be uncomfortable with, this is an opportunity. This is one of those moments for some people in this room to step out of that box and allow, like, it didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter that it was dancing. Like, I think oftentimes, though, he'll use the stuff that we'll, like, think of as foolish. Like, he uses the foolish to shame the wise. So it's like he offers us something that will, like, look weird. Like singing really loud might look weird. Starting to scream or in an appropriate time might look weird. But but that's oftentimes like pay attention to the signs. Like, is this an opportunity to step out? Is this an opportunity to step out into the more that's being offered for me to step into? So, bless you with that. So the things I want to talk about is right. We had that one side of ministering to the heart of God. And I feel like, that's our primary activity. And the other thing that I feel like you wanted to talk about tonight was what it looks like to find my voice. What does it look like to find your voice? What does it look like not just to let Amy and Blake and Noah and Chad and Helen and Aaron and Matt be the powerful people who are like my voice. They're the worship leaders, so it's like I'm just kind of like rolling with what's happening. But what does it look like really to find like what is my voice look like? What can I contribute? Not just what can I contribute, not just what can I do, but what can I like bring to just like of myself, just who I am, just be. So I was thinking, AJ and I were talking about what it looks like where do people even find their voice? And I think it's in two places. It's in the secret place and it's in the quiet place, and then it's in the expression of a community. So I think what happens is the foundation for what my voice sounds like, what I was created for, what I carry, what I'm anointed to bring into an atmosphere and change. It's found in that place. That foundation is created in the secret place, but it's not expressed. It's not full. It's not even like given for the sake of what it was made to be until it's expressed in a corporate setting with people, right? Because think of God, like God's essential nature and who He is community. Right? It's the Father and it's the Son and the Holy Spirit. We don't understand how it works, but there's this beauty of community being at the very core, essential nature of who God is. And since we were created in His image, everything that we do has some level of like, what is this engagement for the sake of like family, for the sake of the good of others. And I think in worship, is with finding our voice. We find our foundation and our kind of ebbs and flow and kind of how we roll. And then we bring it into this space. And we honestly like test it out. And we like give it a go and kind of see what happens. And then what we have the joy then as a family to do is to see people stepping out. See people like using their voice, whether it's through... And this is so far beyond, well, I guess not beyond worship because it is worship, like in breaking into every aspect of life. It's in the music on Sundays. It's in the arts. It's in the accounting. It's in the community building. It's in the friendships. It's in the whatever it is. And when we start to see people living out of like their voice of what that person, you guys know what I mean? Like what they sound like, not like their voice, but like what their like person sounds like. Getting a little mystical on you, but you guys get it. And when we see people stepping out and doing that, we have the joy and the opportunity to affirm people and say, not, hey, Jordan, you sound bad. Be like, that sound was beautiful. I want to know that. Show me more. And so it's like it's like this culture of honor where it's like in worship, the people at the front that are pounding the stage and screaming out in worship, let's honor them and thank for what they bring to it. And the people in the back that are just sitting and contemplating, let's honor them for what they bring. And it's all part of this expression of worship that looks like, that doesn't need to be just one person or just one way it looks. So you guys have permission to find your voice. Go to the secret place. Start to ask God, like, what are the things that make me passionate? What are the things that I really love? And how can I start to engage with this on a communal level and start to take this into the open arena? Oh, yeah. I forgot about this. I didn't say this to the other two. This is good. yeah, in the secret place, just learning how to express your heart with how it connects to God. Super vulnerably, there's been, in such a beautiful way, and I welcome them and still do to this day very much, just words spoken over me about like songwriting and like you're going to write songs that are going to influence generations and you're going to write songs that churches are going to sing and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, like awesome, yes. But to be super honest with you guys, some of what that's led into is starting some kind of feelings of like pressure. Like, oh, like I'm supposed to be writing right now and I feel like nothing's coming out. Like what? Like I'm doing something wrong. I'll write songs. I've written a lot of songs and thrown away a lot of songs out of feeling like they're not good enough. Or being like, yeah, this actually doesn't like meet the standard that everybody has for me. And it's less of like trying to meet their standard, but it's like this, just the pressures and the wanting to like succeed and not fail other people. Like all this stuff that's part of my own just like journey of dealing with and allowing more light to be shed and more purity to flood my heart in that area. And so how I've been kind of like dealing with this, even in the last like few months, is even in times of worship, corporate worship, when we're here on Sundays, we'll leave space at the end of songs. I mean, we've been doing that, I think, basically our whole time. But you'll hear me start to invite, like, hey, start to sing like a song. Like, you don't even need to use words. Just start to sing melodies. Just fill the air with creation. Just fill the air with engaging with his heart of creativity and sound and just like start activating. And what that is that's part of my own process that has been like, hey, like I don't feel like I have the capacity right now to be like writing a bunch of lyrics and like #1 chart songs, but I can give him in my expression of creativity, which is like creating music and just allowing that to flood out. And so just like that's what's happening. So next time it happens, you better start singing melodies or I'll get real mad. Yeah, just inviting you guys into that place. Start to find your voice. Start to ask him to help you find your voice. Like he's good, he'll help you do it. And start to step out. Shoot, man, it's already 9. Yeah, I'll just finish there.
Not in San Francisco.
It's not 9 in San Francisco. We got another hour, people. Let's do it. I like you. So yeah, guys, I just want us to all, we are invited into the, like, we're doing this thing together. I'm still figuring out, like, what this looks like, how to do it. Our team is still figuring out what this looks like, how to do it. Really quick tangent. They are so amazing, by the way, guys. Our worship team that we have that serve, like, they are blow my mind. And that's like so far beyond just a people who like sound good and like play their instruments well. But I've never been a part of a worship culture that really values and enters into honor and into a culture of prayer and a team who comes to me and says, hey, like we want to get better at our craft and what we're doing, so can we start doing midweek rehearsals? Like that's unheard of to me, and I've been a part of so many teams. So these guys that lead you are so far than just like beyond just like playing music, but they have such like pure, beautiful, humble hearts. So love you guys. So yeah, I just want to, our culture of worship, guys, our culture of worship as a congregation, as a worship team, as staff, as all these levels, it's all integrating and we're all getting to write the story together. And so I just feel like God wants to give us an impartation of leading us into ministering and starting to know what it looks like to minister to the heart of God, and then also what it looks like to find our voice. So would you guys stand, and I just want to pray that over us and bless us. Yeah, thank you, God. So we just tell you once again, Lord, we refuse to settle for anything less than the fullness of who you created us to be, God. We refuse to let this culture of worship and what it looks like in this space to be anything less than you want it to be. And so we just invite you right now to come. And I just ask for all my friends in this room, you would start to speak to their hearts such loving encouragement and conviction and whatever it is. And you would lead us into a place where we start to see how we can minister to your heart in a more effective way. From a place that comes from love and passion. It doesn't come out of like forced making it happen. God, I ask that you would help us find our voice. I declare blessing over all the times in the secret place, all the times in the prayer closet and in spending time in his presence, that you would start to speak so clearly what the passions and what the anointings that you've placed on these people's lives is. So God, make us a people of such love and such adoration to you that we can barely even sing, Jesus, we love you. Because there's so much adoration that just has to come out. So we love you and we thank you that this isn't the end. This is the beginning of a process that you're taking us in. And so we just willingly and joyfully say, take us on it. This is your house. This is your body. It's always was for you and always will be for you. So take us wherever you want to go. We adore you and we love you so much, King Jesus.
Thanks for listening to the River House podcast. For more information, visit riverhouseministries.com.